That last statement is a reference to Devadatta.
Yang tadi itu yang terakhir adalah reference untuk mengutip untuk si Devadatta.
Who sort of got part of the way in his meditation practice and then thought he was enlightened and so he could take over the Sangha.
Karena Devadatta baru melakukan separuh dari meditasinya, kemudian mendapatkan kekuatan dan dia merasa dia sudah tercerahkan, kemudian mulai berbuat jahat.
Also quite relevant because King Ajatasattu was Devadatta's sponsor.
Ya di sini penting karena Raja Ajatasattu adalah sponsornya Devadatta.
Okay, another 7 conditions. As long as the bhikkhus have faith, they have a sense of moral shame and fear of misconduct. That's hiriotapa. As long as they are proficient in learning the Dhamma, resolute, mindful and wise.
Jadi selama para bhikkhu mempunyai keyakinan, selama mereka punya rasa malu terhadap perbuatan yang nggak benar, rasa takut terhadap perbuatan yang salah, juga baik dalam mempelajari, resolute itu kokoh pendiriannya, mindful selalu sadar dan bijaksana.
And another 7. As long as the bhikkhus cultivate the 7 factors of enlightenment, that's the satta bodhanga. That is mindfulness, investigation into dhammas, energy, bliss, tranquility, bliss is rapture or piti, tranquility, passaddhi, concentration, samadhi, and equanimity, ubekha.
Jadi selama juga mereka selalu mengembangkan 7 faktor dari Bojjhanga, 7 faktor pencerahan, ini ada di Bojjhanga Sutta ya, mindfulness, sati, is it sati? Sati. Terus Dhamma Wicayo, investigasi pada fenomena yang terjadi, energi wirya, bliss, piti, kemudian tranquility itu kedamaian, piti sukha, konsentrasi, samadhi, dan equanimity, upeka.
And another 7 conditions. Okay, so this is a set of 7 meditation subjects.
Ini 7 subjek dari meditasi.
First one is the perception of impermanence.
Persepsi tentang ketidakkekalan.
Anicca sanya. Next one of not self.
Anatta, is it?
Anatta.
Anatta.
Yeah. Next one is the impurity of the body, is the asubha.
Asubha itu bahwa tubuh ini tidak murni.
Relinquishment is letting go.
Melepaskan.
Dispassion.
What's dispassion?
I guess it's like letting go of desire.
Tidak mempunyai keinginan, melepaskan keinginan.
And cessation.
Dan berhenti, cessation, stop ya.
And another 6 conditions.
6 kondisi lainnya.
So the Buddha was really taking a lot of trouble over this. Okay, he was really wanted to teach the bhikkhus and give them this is how you're going to hold the sangha together. Okay, another 6 ones. So long as the bhikkhus attend on each other with loving kindness in deed, word, and thought, both openly and in private.
Jadi Buddha ini benar-benar bersusah payah untuk menyampaikan ini kepada para bhikkunya. Jadi jika para bhikku memperlakukan satu sama lainnya dalam perbuatan, ucapan, dan pikiran dengan penuh kebaikan metta ya. Dan secara terbuka, baik secara terbuka maupun secara tertutup.
So long as with what they get in their alms, their offerings, even the content of their alms bowls, they do not use them without sharing them with virtuous members of the community. That means that whatever you receive, whatever offerings you receive, even if you get a bit of rice in your alms bowl, you should try to share it with the other members of the Sangha.
Dan apapun yang mereka peroleh karena penghargaan, selalu mereka share itu, berbagi dengan anggota Sangha lainnya.
And similarly, as long as together with the other Sangha, that they train themselves both openly, that means in public and in private, in the rules of conduct, the Patimokkha rules, which are complete and perfect, spotless and pure, liberating, praised by the wise, uninfluenced by mundane concerns, favorable to samadhi.
Jadi apalagi jika mereka juga melatih diri mereka baik secara terbuka maupun secara private di dalam semua patimokkha nih rules of conduct yang dilakukan oleh para biku, karena patimokkha ini lengkap, perfect, sempurna, tidak ternoda, murni, membebaskan dan dipuji oleh para bijaksana, tidak terpengaruh oleh hal-hal yang duniawi dan sangat menunjang untuk samadhi.
And finally, and again, together with the Sangha, both openly and in private, they preserve the insight, the wisdom that is noble and liberating, and which leads one who acts upon it to the utter ending of suffering.
Jadi bersama dengan para biku lainnya selalu mempertahankan baik secara terbuka maupun secara private kebijaksanaan yang agung dan membebaskan dan menuju bahwa seseorang ini pada akhirnya akan menghancurkan semua penderitaan.
And so that's the end of the sets of dhammas about leading to non-decline.
Jadi ini adalah dhamma, akhir dari dhamma yang menunjang ketidakmerosotan, kemajuan ya, non-decline.
So before we move on, again, any questions?
Sebelum berlanjut, ada
Yes.
pertanyaan?
How do we measure whether someone's wise or not? Oh my goodness. Well, the Buddha actually said some very interesting things about that. And one of the things he says was that you know someone's wisdom by living with them and talking to them and getting to know them over a long period of time and not over a short period. Yeah?
Jadi tadi ada pertanyaan, bagaimana kita tahu seseorang itu bijaksana apa tidak? Kemudian Bante menjawab, Buddha mengatakan bahwa untuk mengetahui bahwa seorang itu bijaksana apa tidak, kita harus tinggal dengan orang tersebut untuk waktu yang lama, nggak bisa cuma sebentar.
So not to be in a hurry to judge.
Jadi tidak menghakimi dengan terburu-buru orang ini bijaksana apa tidak.
Okay, any other questions?
Ada pertanyaan lainnya?
Okay, we're nearly at the end of the passages that I had for today. We just got a couple more paragraphs to read.
Ada beberapa paragraf lagi yang perlu dibaca.
And while the Blessed One was still living in Rajagaha at the Vulture's Peak, he often gave counsel to the bhikkhus thus: such and such is virtue, sila. Such and such is concentration, samadhi. Such and such is wisdom, panya. Great is the fruit and great is the benefit of concentration, of samadhi, when it is fully developed by virtuous conduct. Great is the fruit and great is the benefit of wisdom when it's fully developed by samadhi. And utterly freed from the defilements of greed, existence and ignorance is the mind that is fully developed in wisdom.
Jadi Sang Bhagawa ketika tinggal di Rajagaha di bukit yang disebut tadi Vulture's Peak, biasanya memberikan counsel atau advice kepada para bhikkhu seperti ini. Yang ini dan ini adalah sila, yang ini dan ini adalah samadhi, yang ini dan ini adalah panya. Besarlah buahnya, besar akibat yang didapat dari konsentrasi ketika itu dikembangkan dengan perilaku yang benar. Besarlah buahnya, besar juga manfaat yang didapat dari kebijaksanaan ketika itu dikembangkan dengan konsentrasi. Semuanya terbebaskan dari noda las itu keinginan, dari becoming itu kemenjadian dan kebodohan dari pikiran. Kalau semuanya dikembangkan dengan kebijaksanaan.
So notice that the text says that the Buddha often taught like this.
Banyak sekali teks yang Buddha babarkan secara ini, dengan ini.
And in fact, during the whole Mahaparinibbana Sutta, we'll come across this passage again and again.
Dan selama dalam Mahaparinibbana Sutta banyak sekali kutipan yang seperti ini.
And so it seems that the Buddha is returning to some of the most central, most important themes of his teachings, sila, samadhi, panya.
Dan Buddha menganggap ini penting, maka Buddha sering mengulang-ulangnya dalam Mahaparinibbana Sutta, sila, samadhi, dan panya.
He's reminding the bhikkhus of these things again and again and again.
Untuk mengingatkan kita lagi dan lagi.
Then when the Blessed One had stayed at Rajagaha for as long as he pleased, he addressed the Venerable Ananda. Come, Ananda, let us go to Ambalatika. So be it, Lord. And the Blessed One took up his abode at Ambalatika together with a large sangha of bhikkhus.
Jadi ketika Sang Bhagawa tinggal di Rajagaha selama yang beliau inginkan, beliau mengatakan kepada Yang Mulia Ananda, mari Ananda kita pergi ke Ambalatika. Baiklah Sang Bhagawa. Kemudian Sang Bhagawa mengambil tempat di Ambalatika, tinggal di Ambalatika bersama komunitas biku yang besar.
So notice how in this whole discourse the Buddha is so close with Ananda.
Perhatikan bahwa dalam ajaran ini Sang Bhagawa selalu berbicara kepada Ananda.
Now I believe that this sutta, Mahaparinibbana Sutta, was in fact written but composed by Ananda.
Jadi Bante mengatakan kemungkinan besar Sutta Mahaparinibbana ini dibuat oleh Bante Ananda, Yang Mulia Ananda.
He was with the Buddha the whole time.
Karena Bante Ananda itu selalu bersama dengan Sang Buddha.
And of all the great disciples, he was the one who had the most personal love and concern for the Buddha as a person, as an individual.
Dan kita bisa lihat bahwa Ananda adalah orang yang sangat memperhatikan Sang Buddha sebagai individu.
And if you this whole series of teachings, I mean, the Buddha himself gives a particular teaching, yeah, but then all of those teachings are organized. They're put together in a whole big narrative. There's a whole story which goes from this beginning with the Jatasattu right up to the Mahaparinibbana and even beyond.
Jadi kalau dilihat bahwa narasi dari semua sutta ini dikompilasi mulai dari Mahaparinibbana Sutta Ajatasattu sampai yang berikut-berikutnya.
And we've already seen to some degree how the sutta hangs together, how there are themes which are announced at the beginning of the sutta which will develop. Like we've already seen the theme of the long lasting of the Sangha. Yeah? And so to me there was a great literary mind which put all of this material together in a very meaningful form. And I think that mind was Ananda.
Jadi ini pendapatnya Ajahn ya. Jadi kalau kita lihat dari sutta ini tema-temanya bahwa yang dari awal itu temanya adalah bagaimana sangga itu bisa bertahan lama, dan waktu membuatnya narasi ini dibuat seolah-olah oleh orang yang mengerti sastra literal. Jadi biasanya ini dilakukan oleh orang yang punya pemikiran besar, dan ini Bante menginterpretasinya orang ini adalah Ananda.
At Ambalatika, the Blessed One came to stay in the king's rest house, and there too the Blessed One often spoke to the bhikkhus thus: such and such is sila, such and such is samadhi, such and such is panya. And I'm going to retranslate this according to my own translation because I don't like this translation very much. When samadhi is soaked through with sila, then it is of great benefit and great fruit. When wisdom is soaked through with samadhi, then it is of great fruit and great benefit. And when the mind, when wisdom is soaked through with samadhi, the mind is completely freed from the defilements of greed, of rebirth, and of ignorance.
Jadi waktu ketika Sang Bhagawa ada di Ambalatika dan tinggal di tempat di rumahnya raja, di sana pula Sang Bhagawa memberikan advice kepada para biku. Bante menerjemahkan ini bukan dari teksnya, jadi Bante membuat terjemahan sendiri dengan kata-kata yang Bante. Samadhi and sila, the first one.
Yeah, samadhi.
Jadi kalau samadhi dan sila bersama, maka besarlah buahnya. Kemudian wisdom panya dengan samadhi, buahnya juga besar. Kemudian yang satu lagi adalah samadhi and panya. Samadhi dan panya, besar pula buahnya. Jadi kalau dikombinasi.
So I just got to point out a textual problem here is that the translator has used the translation fully developed. They're rendering the Pali word paribhavita. Actually, it's a mistranslation.
Jadi kata-kata fully developed, berkembang dengan sempurna, itu terjemahannya itu tidak tepat dari Palinya. What is the Pali word again?
The Pali word is paribhavita. Paribhavita.
I don't think I can pronounce that.
Never mind, I just did. Paribhavita. And in this context, what paribhavita means is soaked through. It's like, it's an image that's used like if you have a piece of cotton or something like that, and it's soaked through with water. Yeah? And so the idea is that when you develop if your sila is fully complete, then this meditation that you develop is like soaked through with all of that sila that you've developed. It's like everything is becoming that one thing. And the same thing when you develop wisdom. If your samadhi is fully developed, then the samadhi will like soak through into the wisdom, so that your wisdom will become perfected.
Jadi Bante mengumpamakannya seperti kapas. Kalau kapas itu menyerap air ya, kita bisa bayangin kalau kapas itu menyerap air. Jadi tadi kalau sila itu mendukung samadhi, samadinya itu seperti menyerap air yang silanya itu, dia mendukung penuh tuh kalau silanya bagus, mendukung samadinya. Demikian pula kalau samadinya penuh, dia menunjang panyanya. Jadi satu sama yang lainnya itu berhubungan.
When the Blessed One had stayed at Ambalattika, as long as he pleased, he addressed the Venerable Ananda thus: "Come, Ananda, let us go to Nalanda." "So be it, Lord." And the Blessed One took up his abode in Nalanda, together with a large community of bhikkhus, and came to stay in the mango grove of Pavarika.
Jadi ketika Sang Bhagawa tinggal di Ambalattika selama yang beliau inginkan, beliau mengatakan kepada Ananda, "Mari Ananda, kita pergi ke Nalanda." Kemudian Ananda menjawab, "Baiklah." Kemudian Sang Bhagawa tinggal di Nalanda bersama dengan komunitas besar para biku, dan mereka tinggal di perkebunan mangga Pawarika.
And if you've been on the pilgrimage tour of India, then you would have probably been to both Rajagaha and also to Nalanda, and you'll know that Nalanda is a little bit further north of Rajagaha. Okay, so Ambalattika obviously in between the two. And so the Buddha is wandering by fairly short stages. I mean, I don't know how far it is from Rajagaha to Nalanda, maybe 20 kilometers, something like that, not all that far. So, and he's heading north, okay? He started out this journey. Remember, the Buddha is 80 years old at this time, okay? How many of you feel like wandering through the jungles now? I mean, much less when you're 80, yeah? So the Buddha was still pretty fit, yeah, and able to do this journey. But it's a fairly gentle journey. He's not going particularly fast. He's wandering by step.
Jadi beliau pindah dari satu tempat ke tempat yang lainnya. Jadi Rajagaha dan Nalanda ini sekitar 20 km, dan itu menuju ke arah lebih ke utara. Jadi Nalanda itu ada di sebelah utara daripada Rajagaha, dan Ambalattika itu ada di antara kedua tempat tersebut. Jadi bisa dibayangkan Buddha pada saat itu berusia 80 tahun. Bisa bayangin nggak Anda yang sekarang aja umur segini, mungkin kalau disuruh jalan-jalan ke hutan gimana rasanya, tapi beliau pada umur 80 tahun masih cukup fit, cukup sehat untuk berjalan, tapi jalannya juga nggak terlalu jauh. Jadi perjalanan yang lumayan gentle, lumayan nggak terlalu menyulitkan beliau.
And by heading north, it's also, I think, quite interesting because he's heading into the country of the Vajjayans.
Dengan menuju ke arah utara, sebenarnya beliau menuju ke tempat kaum Wajis berada.
So I think that in a sense, he's kind of picking sides, really. He's had this kind of conversation with Ajatasattu's minister, and then he knows he's going to die, and he chooses to die in the Vajjayan country rather than in Magadha.
Jadi sebenarnya pada saat memilih tempat, pada saat Sang Buddha menuju ke arah utara, beliau sebenarnya secara tersirat menunjukkan bahwa beliau memilih untuk berpihak pada kelompok Wajis, karena beliau sudah tahu bahwa beliau akan sebentar lagi parinibbana, tidak meninggalkan dunia ini. Beliau memilih untuk meninggal di tempat para Wajis berada, bukan di tempatnya Raja Ajatasattu.
And to me, this whole journey is I find it very moving. The idea of the Buddha still so simple and so humble. Yeah, he just says, okay, now we go here. They pick up the bowl, and they just wander. He's not making a big fuss about it. You can imagine that, there would have been in the community this kind of questions and rumors starting around there. What's happening now? The Buddha's moving. and they all know that the Buddha's kind of getting old. Something's going to happen sooner or later, yeah. And so you can imagine in the community the kind of questions and rumors, what's going to happen, so this kind of momentum is just starting to build up.
Jadi Bante menganggap perjalanan Sang Buddha menuju ke utara ini sangat menyentuh. Bisa melihat bahwa Buddha itu orang yang begitu sederhana, begitu rendah hati, tidak membesar-besarkan masalah. Jadi seperti kita tahu pada saat Buddha melakukan perjalanan ke utara, sebenarnya mungkin di sekitar orang-orang di sekitarnya sudah mulai bertanya-tanya, berbisik-bisik, menggosip istilahnya, apa yang akan terjadi. Tentu saja mereka sudah tahu bahwa sebentar lagi pasti ada sesuatu yang terjadi, apalagi Buddha pada saat itu usianya sudah cukup tua.
So I want to leave it there for now. We'll leave the Buddha staying in the mango grove at Pawarika, and we can come back tomorrow night and continue the journey, see where the Buddha goes up to next, and see how the community responds when they gradually find out that the Buddha really is going to pass away.
Jadi hari ini ditutup dengan meninggalkan nama Buddha di tempat perkebunan mangga. Besok kita akan tahu ceritanya bagaimana respons daripada komunitas setelah mengetahui bahwa Buddha memang benar-benar akan meninggal.
Okay, so any last questions before we finish up?
Ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan akhir sebelum kita selesaikan?
Yeah. Why did the Buddha use concentration instead of mindfulness? I mean, of course, both the word concentration is samadhi, the word mindfulness sati. Of course, the Buddha used both of those words very commonly and taught and encouraged them very often. But the main category is always the samadhi. So you always find sila, samadhi, panya. And mindfulness is a part of samadhi rather than the other way around. So the right mindfulness in the Eightfold Path is there's these three factors of the Eightfold Path: right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. And these three are all considered to be part of the samadhi section of the path, rather than the other way around. So if you like, samadhi is considered to be. I think mindfulness is always in the suttas is always conceived as being that which is leading to samadhi. And mindfulness is the support for samadhi.
Jadi tadi ada pertanyaan mengapa Sang Buddha selalu menggunakan istilah samadhi bukan sati. Jadi kalau tadi sila, samadhi, panya. Bante mengatakan bahwa konsentrasi itu samadhi, kalau mindfulness itu sati. Bante mengatakan bahwa sati itu adalah bagian dari samadhi. Kalau dalam 8 unsur yang jalan tengah, 3 unsur terakhirnya itu adalah unsur samadhi, jadi tidak diterminologikan sebagai unsur daripada sati. Right mindfulness, mindfulness yang benar itu adalah hal yang diterjemahkan sebagai sesuatu yang menuju atau sesuatu yang mendukung samadhi. Jadi sati itu mendukung samadhi, bukan sebaliknya.
Okay. Okay, any more questions?
Ada
Yes, at the back.
Yeah. How important is samadhi to Buddhists?
How important? Well, don't listen to me. Listen to the Buddha. That's why we've got these. That's why we're reading the sutta. Yeah, sila, samadhi, panya. This is the message which the Buddha taught over and over and over again, reminding the bhikkhus and reminding the community before he passed away. So the answer is very important.
Sangat penting, tapi jangan dengerin omongannya Bante, dengerin omongannya Sang Buddha. Sang Buddha mengulang-ulang sila, samadhi, dan panya bukan untuk para bhikkhu saja, tapi untuk semua. Jadi penting sekali. Okay, so it's getting a bit late now, so we should maybe wrap up. And so that's just the beginning of the sutta. Hopefully I'll see you all back here tomorrow evening, and we can continue. And we can go through and see all the way to the Buddha's passing away over the next few days. Jadi hari ini kita selesaikan sampai di sini, tapi dalam beberapa hari berikutnya kita akan melihat Mahaparinibbana Sutta sampai proses terakhir Buddha Parinibbana.